In the book community, there is another bookish artist that people are suspecting is scamming with AI. So let's take a look at this and see for ourselves. This was the call out on the artist that went viral with 1.2 thousand likes, writing, "Guys, am I crazy or does this look like AI? I genuinely can't tell anymore, and the account is growing super fast." So it's featuring an account named Moonlight Art, and here is a close up of the work. Now, again, I just want to add a disclaimer. One, don't send hate to any parties involved, okay? Don't go send hate, don't bully people. There's just some interesting things happening. So let's take a look because the worst case scenario is unfortunate authors get scammed with AI without realizing it. There's some interesting things happening here with the line work. The line work is a little bit wobbly, but benefit of doubt, possibly, maybe they just have shaky liner, it happens. That also was not the first call out because another person had also called out the account as well, saying this AI scammer keeps AI scamming. Beware. So this is the account in question, and let's take a look to see if is it legit or is it not legit. A couple of things, that could be a red flag. They started posting January 12th. Now, just because you are a new artist posting doesn't mean you used AI, right? Sometimes people have backlog. Sometimes somebody had a previous account, but maybe they did like NSFW or something, so they don't want it associated with a more PG safe account. And they upload at a reasonable frequency. If you're pumping out fully illustrated drawings twice a day, every single day, that's likely AI. A human can't do that. You genuinely just burn out? So the pacing of the artwork coming out also looks legit? So all of that, that's looking normal. They also have speed paints. This is a speed paint they have. They title it Random Girl I Drew. Next slide just for fun. Maybe they're just joking, because this most definitely looks like Jude from The Cruel Prince. But yeah, the speed paint, we have them drawing normally. We have them drawing the character. It looks good. It looks like the way somebody would draw art. They draw a sketch, they kind of like block in the sketch, they block in the pieces, and everything makes sense. The speed paint doesn't look like they're like tracing over something that you can't see. Now, possibly they are, but I'm trying to give benefit of doubt here, right? But then there's some other pieces. It starts getting a little suspicious. So they have this art piece of Evangeline Fox from Once Upon a Broken Heart. Oh, I love that series. And looking at it, it's a bit interesting because one thing to note is that the way the face and hair is drawn looks similar, but it's not the same actually as what we saw in the speed paint. The rendering is a lot more smoothed out, a lot more shiny and smooth, whereas in the speed paint we could see a lot of brush strokes. So that's always one thing that's a bit interesting is when like the styles changed. And plus, we don't see a speed paint for this piece. Again, every artist is allowed to post as many speed paints as they want. It's just interesting that the pieces that look very AI-esque don't have speed paints. But moving on, a couple things that are a bit odd is one, again, we have the hair swirling. It's not always an indication of AI, right? But AI does the thing where like hair curls back into hair. We have that kind of happening here. This chunk makes sense. It's going into the bow, but then this part here is coming back in again, and it's a bit odd. And again, we have the like random strands of hair here that are like looping into random things that don't quite make sense. My tinfoil hat theory, if they possibly used AI on this. Possibly. Maybe the AI had some really bad hair looping here, so they went in and tried to clean it up themselves. Another thing that I just found a little bit odd is that the rendering is like perfect, allegedly, right? Like for the face and the hair. It's like a really high level of rendering. So why is the finger going into the apple? Just curious. But again, we have like loops in the hair. There's like a loop in the hair here. Maybe they forgot about it. Maybe. We have more hair looping into things down here happening as well. And one thing that I find very interesting with this piece is that it's cut out, right? You can see here, it's very faint, but you can see like white artifacts. There's like a white dot here and white artifact in here. And this looks like what happens when you have an image on like a white background. You use the remove background tool to remove the background and then drop them on a green background instead to change the background color. Now, maybe this could happen accidentally, like maybe the artist drew it, accidentally flattened all the layers and is like, oh crap, I want a transparent image. So then they later had to cut the image out. Could happen, right? Accidents happen. Or it could be an AI image that they tried cutting out and then you end up with a little bit of white compression left around the image from you cutting things out and pasting it onto the background. And the reason why I'm pointing this out is because like if you drew the image yourself in your own drawing program, you would have access to all the layers. So you could just change the background color to green and it wouldn't do this. A final thing that I found interesting, but this most definitely could just be like a art error because errors happen to everybody, right? Is like the hair cuts into here. Here we have strands of the bangs, but there's just the background cut in here. Again, sometimes people just make mistakes. Humans make mistakes. The final thing that I found a bit interesting was that, again, the hair cuts off here. Like, it looks like the hair is supposed to continue flowing outwards and it's just chopped off. So again, maybe they just flattened everything onto one layer on a white background and that was like, crap, I need to access the image, cut it up like this, and this is what happens. But then the line art goes in here, which is odd. So next up, we have this image, which again has some interesting elements to it. Where again, you can see here the hair is doing the looping in and out thing. It's happening here. This could be explained away as like the styling, right? It's happening again here too. And it's happening over here by the head. Again, there's like crunchy bits in the hair. We have here, here, here. And then we have the flowers in the hair, which are looking a little interesting, but maybe it's like a different type of flower, like hydrangeas, kind of have that like puddly look to it. But then you see the flowers in the background. What's happening to this flower or this? Or what's happening here? This is not actually a flower. Next up, we have this one. It's a bit interesting. The pupils are different. Maybe it's an art choice. I don't know. She also has like hecka eyelashes on one eye and not on the other. The artist's art style is drawing like very exaggerated eyelashes. I just maybe just forgot it on the other eye. But one thing that's always very interesting that I see with like AI artists, or like people who are trying to fake their process, if that is what's happening here, is that the level of line art doesn't match the level of rendering. Now, of course, some artists spend a lot of time doing one, some artists spend a lot of time doing the other. Like, you'll have artists with like god tier line art and the rendering is like, okay, mainly because they really like doing line art. And you'll have the vice versa. The line art is real sketchy and stuff like that, but the rendering is god tier. But some of this line art to me just looks a bit off, like amateurish, because we have the line here for the shoulder and it just cuts off here. And then there's some like muddiness happening here and some line art that's real crunchy. And then we get like line art again over here. For the pants, right? We have line art on one side of the pants and not on the other side of the pants. Or here, the line art doesn't even connect fully to the sleeve. Now, sometimes you just forget and you miss color, but that is something that you will notice, like there's no consistency within the line work. Here we have like one line for like a strand of hair and there's just a big gap where there's just more hair. But a big one, let's take a look at the background. We have trees with branches that go down and then intersect into another branch. These two trees have branches connecting into each other. I don't think trees work that way. And then we have four-pointed stars that are very, very funky looking four-pointed stars. So then we have this piece of Jack and Evangeline from Once Upon a Broken Heart. We have these little ribbons on the side and the ribbons don't connect into each other here. Like there's some like melting happening. I could give this honestly benefit of doubt, possibly. Sometimes you just misalign the ribbons, you misalign your lines, accidents happen. What some people were commenting as interesting is that the hands don't line up properly. Like the way he's holding her hand just doesn't make sense. It's like you had two drawings, right? Like you have one image of Jack with his hand like this, one image of Evangeline with her hand like that, and you like Photoshop the two together, like one on top of the other, instead of them being drawn together, if that makes sense. Other things that are just a bit interesting is that Jack has a lot of inconsistencies. First off, his hair logic doesn't make sense again. We again have more of the looping of the hair. A big one too is like when hair doesn't come from a point in the head. Like this is just hair that is not attached actually to his scalp. It's just like making a C shape over here. But another one is the clothing inconsistencies where this sleeve is not this sleeve. One, they're not the same color, but maybe it's lighting thing. This sleeve has a cuff and there's a bit of like kind of wrinklage here. No cuff, nothing on this side of the sleeve. He has a button and then no buttons and then buttons again. And then there's no like seam for the bottom of the shirt here. This part, maybe you forgot, we forget all the time. But again, you have the hyper realistic rendering, right, of the vest, of the dress, etc. And then again, uneven line art. His pants is lined on the right side and not lined on the left side. Also, what I found interesting is every button is a different color. Maybe that's an artistic choice to make it look shiny, but it could also be pointing towards AI because AI has a tendency to use an unnecessary amount of colors. Also, her sleeves are not the same either. This sleeve is not the same as this sleeve. This sleeve has way more fabric and drapes way deeper than the sleeve, and the detailing on the edge of the sleeves are not the same. Now, you could also argue maybe it's a lighting thing, maybe, but I have a bit of a hard time believing that, to be honest, because the rendering is so good. You want me to believe that you can render to this level, but then you couldn't draw the two sleeves evenly? Because if you also look at the sleeve logic here, right, this side of the sleeve has a lot of fabric compared to this side of the sleeve. Now, this is the last one, and in my opinion, the most egregious one, because again, what is happening with the hair? Like, the line work is blending into the background. The hair is melting into the background. This is just a little nitpicky thing. She has elf ears, right? But a lot of times you don't see people put a divot in the top part of the elf ear, but maybe it's an artistic choice. This time the artist decided they wanted to add that. Something that other people were pointing out is that the hair melts into each other. The right chunk of the hair melts into the left chunk of the hair, as if she's like laying there and it's just like doing a hair beard type thing. But the biggest one and the most telling is the background. Vines, right? The vines melt into the stars. These vines actually intersect into her head for some reason. Vine into head, more vines growing into her head. We have another amalgamation of vines happening over here. We have vines that melt back into other plants. Like all of these plants are interconnected into one. And then we have mystery pole lamp vine thing. This is a lamp that is somehow also a pillar that is also somehow partially a vine. You see the wobbling that's happening to match the vine. Like, this to me is the most damning of all. If not for the fact that she's also reading a blank book, but I mean, maybe that's an artistic choice to leave it blank. Because the big one finally is that you have to think, As a human, what would you draw here? If you were to draw a lamp, you would not melt the lamp into the pole and make the stem wobbly like a vine. If you wanted to make it look like a plant lamp, you would make it look like a plant lamp. And then again, we just have the inconsistent line art. Half this flower is lined and the other half melts into the wall. Other people are pointing out inconsistencies in the work, like hair kind of melting into the neck, etc. This was a call out another artist had made, adding beware of this AI scammer. Zoom into the images and you'll see a lot of AI melting. She deletes comments calling her out, and she's clearly feeding prompts from Frostbite's art style, which is disgusting. The processes are fake. She clearly traces and takes time to fake it with no proper adjustments. Another user adds, her AI slop is identical to Nadia X or whatever her name is now. So for more context, Nadia X, I think she changed her name to like Fawn Atelier, is a artist who does this, right? Her art style looks just like this, like a very AI style with line work on top of it, was caught tracing AI a bunch of times and then drew her haters pregnant and then harassed a bunch of people and then rebranded herself and is still doing the same thing. So there is the conspiracy theory that this new Moonlight art account is her masquerading as another person. The original person who made the call out says, people in the comments say she's an actual real artist, so maybe she's being unfairly discussed online. So people in favor of thinking the art is real are saying things like, well, the AI melting could happen from digital art not being finished and it learns from human error. They're also mentioning, well, it's symmetrical, so it can't be AI. AI stuff is asymmetrical. And this is because she's using Procreate's drawing assist tool. Maybe, possibly. But I would add that she's actually not using the Procreate AI assist mirror tool, which a lot of drawing programs have this. They have a mirror tool. What you draw on the right side will be mirrored to the left side. She could be using other ways that it's not AI to mirror it. The reason being is this image in specific, where you look at the background, you can see a seam right here where my mouse is going over, where the images don't align one to one, where if you have a seam like this, it likely will indicate you drew one side and then duplicated it, flipped it, and then mirrored it that way instead of doing it the Procreate way. Could mean you took an AI image, cut it in half, mirrored it to make it look even to try to disprove the allegations. It could be because you hand drew one side only because, it's mirrored anyway, so why draw two sides? And then you flipped it afterwards. And then another user talking about the mirror tool says, if it was the mirroring tool, there wouldn't be any mirror mistakes in the background. AI is getting better at mirroring, but it still makes mistakes. And then the melting of the hair and clothes, apart from the fact that she's actually a very well-known AI artist, Fawn Atelier, trying to build a second account because her main got called out way too many times. And other people are talking about how the recent speed paint looks suspicious. So this is the recent speed paint in question. I think it's a bit interesting that they like captioned the speed paint, with like what they're doing, using the liquify tool, doing a detailed sketch, doing this, doing that. And then here they're doing the flat color and they're doing a dress shading. And then now they get to the hair rendering. Also, one thing that's interesting is the frame just spawns in. But I just think the final thing for me is like, you look at the speed paint and you could put out this, that, and the third. Maybe this looks interesting and this looks suspicious, whatever, right? The speed paint and what the quality of the speed paint looks like, right? Which is like, this is a good drawing. I'm not saying it's bad or anything, but it's not as rendered as this, which is the post that we're questioning mainly, right? Like, you could argue some parts of the speed paint look sus or whatever, right? But the main posts that we're arguing are the posts that actually don't have the speed paints, like this one. The hair rendering is not the same, and you can't tell me this is the same type of hair rendering. The colors are similar, but the actual style of the rendering is not the same. This one has a lot more depth and shadow to it than this type of rendering. In this sketch, right, or this piece that she drew, she uses a pencil brush for a lot of the inner hairlines. There's no pencil brush used in this piece. Same thing with the face. Again, the way the face is rendered, the way the eyes are saturated, there's like some multiply layers and overlay layers on the face here. The way this is drawn is not the same as this. The way the clothing is rendered in the pieces that look slightly suspicious, it's not the same as how it's rendered here. So I don't doubt that this artist has the capability to draw. That's not the issue. It's just what happened to these art pieces that don't have speed paints attached to them. What are your thoughts at the end of the day? There's a conspiracy theory, right? Do you believe the conspiracy theory? Do you think it's that person trying to come in on a different account? Do you think this is a genuine artist who knows how to draw, just happened to start posting this year? They post at a normal frequency for an artist and they're being unfairly accused of using AI? Or do you think it's somebody tracing AI and rendering some parts of it and trying to pass it off as their own work? I would love to hear your thoughts with respect. Don't send hate or bully anybody in the comment section down below. And with that, if you like this video, I appreciate it if you like and subscribe. Don't forget to check me out on Etsy. I have digital art there for streamers and creators. Also have a coffee with free resources like a free sponsorship guide. And I stream on Twitch 3 days a week, Mondays and Saturdays at 6 p.m., Thursdays at 7:30. Doing like a little workshop right now. So I'm doing a lot of streams actually. I'm doing streams also Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. So I'm doing a double stream Monday. So they're all at 4 p.m. PST. We're teaching people how to be creators. So yeah, pop in there if you want. Or I hope to catch you guys in another video. Peace.